I'm going to use a couple of overhead slides to illustrate what I want to discuss with you this morning. Not too much, I hope, but I hope a way of helping to implant the Ten Commandments, which is the focus of our talk today, in your minds. Thou shalt not. Those three little words that strike fear into the hearts of men and women. So much so, I was very amused to pop over to St. Peter's, Hayling Island, recently, and to see in the car park a sign saying, "Thou shalt not park here," by order of the church wardens. Yeah? It was splendid stuff. In fact, I've done the same on our heating controls over there. If you go and look at our heating controls, there's a sign next to it saying, "Thou shalt not touch." Yeah, because people fiddle with them and then it all goes weird. It's a really strong phrase, isn't it? Thou shalt not. And of course, that was the phraseology of the King James Version. But I want to offer you a slightly different vision of the Ten Commandments. They have a long history, of course, in church mythology. Not least, as some of you may not know, that in the years just after the Reformation, it was ordered from the crown that every church in the land should have the Ten Commandments put right at the front of the church, so that everyone could read them. And so whatever was at the front of the church in those days, whatever beautiful statues or amazing paraphernalia of Eucharistic worship was all swept away in favor of something like this. You can still find these in some churches. Some churches never quite got round to taking them down. One that jumps to mind is St. Luke's in Southsea, which was my sending church when I first went into the ministry. The Ten Commandments and, in fact, the Lord's Prayer are still there at the very front of the church, designed to remind everybody of the importance of these rules for good behavior. But, what I want to suggest is that these are not so much rules about thou shalt not, but actually they're far more positive than that. Often you can change the meaning of something by just changing around a few of the words. Let me show you what I mean. Let's look at what I call the positive Ten Commandments, because I think we need to understand that the Ten Commandments were given to help the people of Israel to form an orderly and just society. It's a great myth that Moses brought them down off the mountain on tablets of stone. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. But actually the story of these laws being given was written down 1,000 years later. And it's quite possible that the priests who wrote these laws down were wanting to make sure that the society they served would also behave well and live together well and love one another positively. And so they were framed as this is a story about Moses, but perhaps actually they were laws for that society 1,000 years later. So they begin with number one, worship only God. It's a pretty simple instruction, isn't it? In the original, the text says, "You shall have no other gods before me." This is, of course, written to a society and a culture that had lots of other gods to choose from. They had all the Greek gods that they could choose from because the Greeks had been around in Palestine and Israel for a long time. They had Roman gods beginning to come over the horizon. They had Babylonian gods to choose from. They had the god Baal. They had Asherah. There was a plethora of gods. And the God is saying through this one, no, just don't worry about all of those. Just focus on one God. There is only one supreme being holding the universe together. But then, you remember the original? "You shall not, thou shalt not make for thyself a carved or a graven image." This is perhaps one that does have to be expressed as a negative. Don't worship things. Don't make lovely statues and then worship them. Don't worship anything. Don't worship pop stars. Don't worship your car. Don't put all your worship into your house. Worship God and God alone. It's a positive statement when you say it that way. The next one, be reverent about God's name. This is one I like to tell children. Instead of saying, "Oh, Jesus Christ," when you've dropped a hammer on your foot, try saying cheese and rice instead. It's close enough, but it just makes people think. Why aren't they saying Jesus Christ? Well, because Jesus Christ is important to me. I love Jesus Christ. I love his teachings. I want to live his way. Why would I use him as a curse word? So I don't say Jesus Christ when I fall off my motorbike. I say cheese and rice instead. It's a positive affirmation. It's not a do not, it's a do. Do be reverent about the God that you love and serve. The next one, a very positive command. This is written to a society where slaves were expected to work 7 days a week, never-ending cycles of work. But the writers of the Ten Commandments say, no, take a day's rest. Everyone should have a day off. Rest is vital for your soul, vital for your physical health and your mental health. Take a day off. It's a positive command. Then honor your parents. That is a command, a positive command, to ensure that between the generations there is continuing love and care. Honouring your parent doesn't necessarily mean agreeing with them in everything. I can tell you, me and my mother don't always agree, but we honour one another and love one another and care for one another. It's a positive command. This one is expressed in the original as "thou shalt not murder." I prefer to express it positively. Value all life. Life is a gift, and we should value it. Certainly never take it away unless we have no other option. Do not, or thou shalt not commit adultery. Again, a negative phraseology for something that is essentially positive. Be faithful. Be faithful in your relationships. Not just your marriage relationships, but all relationships. Be faithful to one another. Positive. Are you with me? Number 8, well, that could really only be said negatively, which is why I've put it in red. Don't steal. It isn't yours. That's just stupid. Don't do it. So we'll leave that one there as a negative. Thou shalt not steal. Makes sense. But we've got 2 more. This is the one that's expressed in the original as "thou shalt not bear false witness." In other words, tell the truth. Always tell the truth. Never tell a lie. Truth is good. Truth is at the heart of who God is. Emulate God and always be truthful, even if it hurts. And finally, last but not least, it's that famous one about coveting. And incidentally, this is one that Bible scholars turn to suggest that the Ten Commandments weren't handed down off the mountain, but rather were written down some hundreds of years later, because it's all about property. This is a commandment given to a settled community. Don't go round wanting your neighbour's ox or his ass. I can see Maddie's going to giggle again. And don't go round coveting the things that belong to other people. The original text references your neighbour's servants. This is clearly written to us, a settled society who have got livestock and servants and all of the things that come with a settled community. But the positive way of phrasing this is, be content with what you have. It's enough to have what you have. Don't go yearning after things you don't have. Find positivity and gratitude in what you already have. So this is my thesis to you this morning. That the Ten Commandments should not be thought of as big, bold statements of thou shalt not, but rather as positive affirmations. In the main, 8 out of the 10 can all be expressed in clearly positive ways. Positive about the way that we live, living faithfully, living with an appreciation of the value of life, living gratefully for the things that we have and not yearning after other things, living lovingly and honoring each other in relationships, taking rest, being reverent about the God that we love and serve. These are all positive statements, and we should accept them and hear them as that. I hope this little recap of the Ten Commandments has been helpful for you to think about this morning. Amen.